The galactic research vessel Horizon drifted through the cold silence of space. It had been traveling for 3 standard cycles, and its crew was tired. Dr. Zinveth stood at the observation window, her 8 crystalline limbs folded beneath her body. She watched the stars pass by and wondered if this expedition would find anything worth reporting. She was a Valorian, a species known for their love of knowledge and their careful nature. Her people had explored the galaxy for thousands of years. They had seen wonders and horrors in equal measure, but nothing had prepared her for what they would find today. Dr. Zinveth, please come to the bridge. Commander Thelrix's voice crackled through the ship's communication system. We have detected something unusual. She made her way through the narrow corridors of the ship. The Horizon was not a large vessel, but it was well equipped for scientific research. When she reached the bridge, she found the commander standing before the main display screen. His reptilian scales reflected the blue light of the holographic projection. Commander Thelrix was a Skarathi, a species of warriors and explorers. He had seen many strange things in his long career, but even he looked troubled by what the sensors had found. What is it? Dr. Zinveth asked. A planet, the commander replied. Uncharted. In the habitable zone of this system. Dr. Zinveth felt a spark of excitement. Uncharted planets were rare these days. Most of the galaxy had been mapped and catalogued long ago. Finding something new was a gift. Show me the data, she said. The commander pressed a control, and the display filled with information. Dr. Zinveth studied it carefully. At first, the readings seemed normal. The planet had an atmosphere. It had water. It had life. Then she looked closer, and her excitement turned to confusion. Then to fear. The planet's surface temperature varied wildly from region to region. Some areas were frozen solid, while others burned under constant volcanic activity. The atmosphere contained oxygen, but it was mixed with dozens of other gases that most species would find toxic. Storms covered large portions of the surface, massive rotating systems of wind and rain that would tear apart any standard spacecraft. And the life forms. There were millions of them. Predators filled every ecosystem. The oceans contained creatures so large that they could swallow a shuttle whole. The land was covered with plants that produced poisons and animals that hunted in packs. This cannot be right, Dr. Zinveth whispered. No planet can be this hostile and still support complex life. The sensors are accurate, Commander Thelrix said. I had the crew run the scans 3 times. The ship's computer made a soft sound, indicating that it had finished its analysis. A classification appeared on the screen in bright red letters. Class 14 Deathworld. Dr. Zinveth felt her body go cold. Class 14 was the highest danger rating in the galactic classification system. She had never seen one before. Most scientists believed that such worlds were theoretical, that no planet could actually reach that level of hostility. Has anyone ever found a Class 14 before? She asked. Only one, the commander replied. It was discovered about 200 standard years ago. The survey team that found it lost half their members just entering the atmosphere. Dr. Zinveth shook her head in amazement. She was about to order a full long-range study when a voice spoke from behind her. Hey, that looks familiar. She turned to see one of the human crew members standing in the doorway. His name was Jake Collins, an engineer who had joined the Horizon as part of an exchange program between species. He was tall by human standards, with brown hair and an easy smile. Beside him stood Amy Grant, a human botanist with kind eyes and a gentle manner. Dr. Zinveth had worked with humans before. They were a relatively new species to the galactic community, having achieved faster-than-light travel only a few centuries ago. They were friendly and hardworking, if a bit strange at times. She had never thought much about where they came from. Familiar how? She asked. Jake walked closer to the display and studied the readings. Amy followed, Her head tilted slightly as she looked at the data. "The atmospheric composition," Amy said softly. "The storm patterns. The geological activity." She paused and glanced at Jake. "It reminds me of home." Commander Thelrix made a harsh sound that might have been a laugh. "Impossible. No sentient species could evolve on a world like this. The conditions would prevent the development of civilization." Jake shrugged. "I mean, it's not exactly the same, but it's close." He pointed at a section of the display. "See those big storms? We call those hurricanes back home. We get them every year." "Every year?" Dr. Zinveth repeated, unable to hide her shock. "Yeah, sometimes they're even bigger than those." Jake said this as if he were discussing the weather, which, in a way, he was. Amy nodded. "And those volcanic zones remind me of the Pacific Ring of Fire. That's a region on Earth where we have constant earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Millions of people live there." The bridge fell silent. Commander Thelrix stared at the humans with an expression that Dr. Zinveth had never seen before. It took her a moment to recognize it as fear. "Are you saying," the commander spoke slowly, "that your homeworld is like this?" "Well, maybe not quite as bad in some ways," Jake admitted. "But yeah, pretty similar. Earth has everything you see here. Hurricanes, volcanoes, earthquakes, predators, diseases, extreme temperatures. We've got it all." Dr. Zinveth pulled up the Galactic database and searched for Earth's file. She had never read it before. When the information appeared on screen, she felt her entire understanding of the universe shift. The file confirmed everything the humans had said. Earth was listed as a Class 12 Deathworld, just 2 levels below the planet they had discovered. The data had been submitted by humans themselves during first contact. Reviewers at the time had noted that the information seemed exaggerated and was likely the result of cultural pride or translation errors that no one had believed it was real. "How?" Dr. Zinveth asked. "How did your species survive?" Amy smiled, and there was something warm and sad in her expression. "We adapted. We learned. We helped each other." Jake nodded. "Earth tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. But we're stubborn. We kept going." Commander Thelrix sank into his chair. His scales had gone pale, a sign of deep distress in his species. "The galaxy has been living alongside Deathworld survivors this whole time, and we never knew." Dr. Zinveth looked at the 2 humans standing calmly on her bridge. They seemed so ordinary, so friendly, so harmless, but they had come from a world that would kill her in minutes. They had evolved in conditions that the galaxy considered impossible, and they spoke about it like it was nothing special. For the first time in her long career, Dr. Zinveth realized that she knew nothing about humans at all, and she wondered, with a mixture of fear and curiosity, what else they might be hiding. Jake caught her staring and gave her a friendly wave. "Don't worry, Doc. We're not that scary once you get to know us." Dr. Zinveth was not sure she believed him. The conference room aboard the Horizon had never felt so small. Commander Thelrix sat at the head of the long table, his claws tapping against the metal surface. Dr. Zinveth occupied the seat to his left, her crystalline body reflecting the dim blue lights of the room. Across from them sat Jake Collins and Amy Grant, looking calm and relaxed despite the tension in the air. A holographic projection flickered to life at the far end of the table. Dr. Nyla Voss appeared, her image transmitted from Earth across thousands of light years. She was a human xenolinguist, a specialist in communication between species. Her dark hair was pulled back, and her eyes were patient and kind. "Thank you for joining us, Dr. Voss," Commander Thelrix said. His voice was stiff and formal. "Of course, Commander. I understand there have been some questions about Earth." The commander let out a low growl that his species used to express frustration. "Questions is one way to put it. We discovered a Class 14 Deathworld today, and your crew members informed us that it resembles their homeworld. I see, Dr. Voss said calmly. And you find this difficult to believe? I find it impossible to believe, the commander replied. No species should be able to evolve intelligence on such a world. The conditions would prevent the formation of stable civilizations. Dr. Zinveth leaned forward. When humans submitted their planetary data during first contact, the information was dismissed as errors or exaggeration. But now we have seen the truth with our own eyes. We need to understand how this is possible. Dr. Voss nodded slowly. I appreciate your willingness to listen. Most species prefer to ignore the reality of Earth. It makes them uncomfortable. We are scientists, Dr. Zinveth said. We seek truth, even when it is uncomfortable. Then let me tell you about our home. Dr. Voss folded her hands together. Earth is approximately 4.5 billion years old. Life has existed there for nearly 4 billion of those years. In that time, there have been 5 major extinction events that wiped out most living things. Commander Thelric's scales rippled with shock. 5 extinction events? And life continued? Life always found a way, Amy said softly. It adapted. It evolved. It refused to give up. Dr. Voss continued. Humans evolved approximately 300,000 years ago. We were not the strongest species on our planet. We were not the fastest or the largest. We had no natural weapons like claws or fangs. Our skin was soft. Our bodies were fragile. Then how did you survive? Dr. Zinveth asked. We worked together, Jake said simply. That's always been our secret. One human alone is weak. But a group of humans working toward the same goal can do almost anything. Dr. Voss nodded. Cooperation is built into our biology. Our brains evolved specifically to understand and connect with other minds. We can read emotions in faces, hear meanings in voices, sense feelings through touch. We are social creatures down to our very cells. Amy stood up and walked to the display screen. She pulled up images of Earth as she spoke. Let me show you what we lived with. These are hurricanes. The screen showed massive storm systems spinning across blue oceans. They can be hundreds of kilometers wide. Winds can reach over 300 kilometers per hour. They happen every year, sometimes dozens of times. The aliens watched in silence as she continued. These are earthquakes. The screen showed cities shaking, buildings falling, the ground itself splitting open. The surface of our planet is made of huge plates of rock that constantly move and grind against each other. When they slip, entire regions can be destroyed in seconds. And volcanoes. Mountains appeared on screen, spewing fire and ash into the sky. Some eruptions have been so large that they blocked out the sun and changed the climate of the entire planet. Commander Thelrix shook his head slowly. How do your people live with such constant danger? We build stronger buildings, Jake said. We develop warning systems. We help each other evacuate. And when disaster strikes, we rebuild. Every single time, we rebuild. Dr. Zinveth was struggling to process what she was hearing. What about the biological threats? Our sensors detected millions of predator species on that new planet. Amy smiled grimly. Earth has plenty of those too. Lions, tigers, bears, sharks, crocodiles, venomous snakes, poisonous spiders. For most of human history, we were prey. We had to learn to defend ourselves, to outsmart creatures that were bigger and stronger than us. But the most dangerous things on Earth are too small to see, Dr. Voss added. Bacteria, viruses, parasites, they live everywhere. In the water, in the air, in the soil, inside our own bodies. Inside your bodies? Dr. Zinveth repeated in horror. Right now, There are trillions of microorganisms living inside each of us, Jake said casually. Most of them are helpful. Some of them try to kill us. Our immune systems fight a constant war to keep us alive. Commander Thelrix had gone very still. His species had been warriors for millennia. They prided themselves on their strength and courage. But he had never heard of anything like this. You live in constant battle, he said quietly. Every moment of every day. We don't think of it that way, Amy replied gently. It's just life. It's all we've ever known. The holographic image of Dr. Voss leaned forward. Commander Doctor, I want you to understand something important. Earth did not make humans hard or cold. It made us connected. We survived because we loved each other. We protected our families. We helped strangers in need. We told stories to remember those we lost. Our world tried to break us, Jake added. But instead, it taught us that we needed each other. That's why humans reach out. That's why we explore. We're always looking for more people to care about. Dr. Zinvith felt something shift inside her. She had spent her entire life studying the universe, cataloging species and worlds. She had always believed that harsh environments produced harsh creatures. That was the logical conclusion, but humans were different. They came from a place of death and destruction, yet they were kind. They had faced extinction over and over, yet they still reached out with open hands. I have one more question, she said slowly. If you survived all of this, what else are your people capable of? Dr. Voss smiled, and there was warmth and wisdom in her expression. That is the question the galaxy has been afraid to ask. I hope you will give us the chance to show you the answer. The conference ended, but Dr. Zinvith sat in silence for a long time afterward. She thought about everything she had learned. She thought about the soft-spoken humans who walked the corridors of her ship. They were survivors of a Deathworld. They carried the strength of millions of years of struggle in their bones. And yet they chose kindness over cruelty, connection over isolation. She wondered what else the galaxy had gotten wrong about humans. She wondered what they might learn if they stopped being afraid and started paying attention. Outside the window, the stars continued to shine, ancient and cold. But for the first time, Dr. Zinvith felt that the universe was a little less empty than she had believed. The distress signal came in the middle of the night cycle. It cut through the silence of the horizon like a scream. Dr. Zinvith was in her quarters when she heard the alarm. She made her way to the bridge as quickly as her 8 limbs could carry her. Commander Thelrix was already there, standing before the main display with a grave expression on his reptilian face. The screen showed a moon called Paraxis 7, a Valorian mining colony that had been operating for decades. What happened? Dr. Zinvith asked. Geological event, the commander replied. Massive. The entire underground network has collapsed. Toxic gases are flooding the tunnels. The distress signal continued to play on a loop. Through the static, they could hear voices crying out for help. They could hear the sounds of rock falling and air rushing. They could hear people dying. Dr. Zinvith felt her heart sink. How many workers were in the mine? Over 300. Most of them Valorian. She closed her eyes. Her people. Her kind. Trapped in darkness, choking on poison, waiting for rescue that would never come. Can we help them? She asked, already knowing the answer. Commander Thelrix shook his head slowly. The conditions are too dangerous. Standard rescue protocols classify this as a total loss. We cannot risk our ship or our crew for a suicide mission. We could at least try. No. The commander's voice was firm. I will not send anyone to their death. The argument might have continued, but a new voice interrupted them. We'll go. Dr. Zinvith turned to see Jake Collins standing in the doorway. Behind him were Amy Grant and 2 other humans she recognized from the crew roster, Ben Harper, a security specialist, and Mira Johal, a medic. Commander Thelric stared at them. "Did you not hear what I said? The conditions are unsurvivable." "We heard you," Ben Harper replied. He was a quiet man with steady eyes and strong hands. "But those people need help. Someone has to try. You will die. Maybe." Myra Johal stepped forward. She was small but carried herself with quiet confidence. "Or maybe we'll surprise you." Jake walked to the display and studied the data. Temperature in the tunnels is around 60 degrees Celsius. High levels of sulfur dioxide and carbon monoxide in the air. Unstable ground with ongoing collapses. He paused. "It's bad, but we've trained for worse." "Trained for worse?" Commander Thelric repeated in disbelief. Amy nodded. "On Earth, we have rescue teams that go into places just like this. Collapsed mines. Burning buildings. Flooded caves. Humans have been pulling each other out of disaster zones for as long as we've existed." Dr. Zinveth watched the humans with growing wonder. They were not afraid. They knew the danger, and they still wanted to go. It made no logical sense. Why? She asked softly. "Why would you risk your lives for strangers?" Ben Harper looked at her with those steady eyes. "Because someone is in trouble, and we can help." It was such a simple answer. Such a human answer. Commander Thelric was silent for a long moment. Then he let out a long breath that sounded like defeat. "I cannot officially authorize this mission, but I will not stop you." The humans moved quickly after that. Within an hour, they had loaded a shuttle with medical supplies, breathing equipment, and tools for clearing debris. Dr. Zinveth went down to the shuttle bay to watch them prepare. "Please be careful," she said to Amy. The botanist smiled and touched her arm gently. "We'll bring your people home. I promise." The shuttle launched into the darkness of space. Dr. Zinveth watched it disappear and felt something she had not felt in a very long time. Hoped out the journey to Paraxis 7 took less than an hour, but it felt like an eternity. When the shuttle landed near the mine entrance, the humans could see smoke rising from cracks in the ground. The air shimmered with heat. Ben Harper was the first one out. He wore a protective suit and carried a portable oxygen supply. The others followed close behind. "The main tunnel entrance is blocked," Jake reported, scanning the area with a handheld device. "But I'm detecting a secondary shaft about 200 meters to the east. It looks partially clear." They moved carefully across the unstable ground. Twice, the earth shifted beneath their feet, and they had to jump to avoid falling into newly formed cracks. Amy led the way, reading the signs of the land the same way her grandmother had taught her to read. Storms back on their Kansas farm. The secondary shaft was narrow and dark. The walls were hot to the touch. Mira checked her readings and shook her head. "Temperature is climbing. We need to move fast." They descended into the mine. The tunnel walls glowed faintly red from the heat. Toxic gases swirled in clouds around them. Any other species would have turned back. But the humans pressed forward. About an hour into the rescue, they found the first survivors. A group of Valorian miners huddled in a small chamber that had partially protected them from the collapse. They stared at the humans with wide, disbelieving eyes. "How?" One of them whispered. "How are you alive in this?" "Don't worry about that right now," Myra said gently. She knelt beside a wounded miner and began treating his injuries. "We're going to get you out of here." The humans worked through the night. Jake and Ben cleared blocked passages with their bare hands when the tools failed. Amy found safe routes through the unstable tunnels. Mira kept the injured alive with nothing but basic supplies and determination. They found more survivors as they went deeper. Some were barely breathing. Some had given up hope. But when they saw the humans, something changed in their eyes. "You came for us," a Skarathi supervisor named Corvith said as Ben helped him to his feet. The galaxy declared this a total loss. They said no one would come. The galaxy was wrong, Ben replied by morning. The humans had rescued over 100 survivors. They led them back through the tunnels, through the heat and the gas and the darkness, to the surface where shuttles were waiting. When they finally emerged into the light, Commander Thelrix was standing there. He had brought the horizon as close as he dared. His medical teams were ready to receive the wounded. The commander watched as the survivors stumbled out of the mine, supported by 4 exhausted humans covered in dust and sweat and burns. "This is impossible," he said quietly. Jake Collins heard him and managed a tired smile. "That's what Earth says about us every day. We're still here." The survivors were loaded onto shuttles and taken to the horizon. As the last one boarded, Supervisor Corvith grabbed Ben Harper's arm. "Why?" he asked. "Why did you come? You don't know us. You owed us nothing." Ben looked at him with exhausted but warm eyes. "Because someone was in trouble. Because we could help." He paused. "That's just what humans do." Corvith stared at him for a long moment. Then he bowed his head, a gesture of deep respect in his culture. "I will never forget this," he said. "None of us will." The humans boarded the last shuttle and returned to the horizon. They had been awake for over 30 hours. They had walked through fire and poison. They had done the impossible. And when Dr. Zinveth asked them how they felt, Jake just shrugged and said, "Tired, but good. Really good." She was beginning to understand what it meant to be human. 1 week had passed since the rescue at Paraxis 7. The horizon had become a different ship. The corridors that once felt cold and sterile now hummed with a warmth that Dr. Zinveth had never experienced before. The rescued miners were recovering in the medical bay. Most of them would survive, thanks to the quick work of the human medic Mira Johal and her alien colleagues. But physical wounds were only part of the damage. Many of the survivors were traumatized, haunted by the darkness and the screams and the certain belief that they would die alone underground. The humans helped with that. Dr. Zinveth spent long hours watching them. She observed how they sat with the wounded and held their hands. She noticed how they told stories and made jokes to distract people from their pain. She saw how they shared meals with strangers who had been enemies of their species. Just weeks ago, it was the young Valorian child who fascinated her most. Her name was Kithra. She was barely 10 cycles old, a small crystalline being with wide, frightened eyes. Both of her parents had died in the collapse. She had been found alone in a pocket of air, curled up and waiting for death to find her. Now she refused to leave Amy Grant's side. Wherever Amy went, Kithra followed. She sat beside the human during meals. She slept outside Amy's quarters. She watched everything Amy did with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. "She has attached herself to you," Dr. Zinveth observed one evening. Amy nodded, her expression gentle. "She lost everything. Her family, her home, her sense of safety. She needs something to hold on to. And you don't mind?" "Mind?" Amy looked surprised by the question. "She's a child who needs love. How could I possibly mind?" Dr. Zinveth had no answer for that. A few days later, Elder Brennix arrived on the horizon. He was a Skarathi philosopher and historian, sent by the Galactic Council to study what had happened at Paraxis 7. The Council wanted to understand how 4 humans had accomplished what their advanced civilizations had declared impossible. Brennix was old, even by Skarathi standards. His scales had faded to a soft gray, and he moved slowly and carefully. But his eyes were sharp, and his mind was sharper still. He interviewed each of the human crew members privately. Dr. Zinveth was allowed to observe these sessions, and what she heard changed her forever. Jake Collins was first. He sat across from Brennix in the small interview room, relaxed and open. Tell me about your species, Brennick said. How do you define yourselves? Jake thought for a moment. We're family creatures. That's the core of it, I think. Everything we do, everything we build, it all comes back to family. Define family for me. It's not just blood, Jake explained. On Earth, family can be anyone you choose to protect and love. Your parents and siblings, sure, but also your friends, your neighbors, even strangers who need help. He paused. When you care about someone enough to sacrifice for them, they become family. Brennick wrote something in his notes. Fascinating. Most species define family strictly by genetic relation. We used to, I think, a long time ago. But Earth is hard. People die. Families get broken apart by disasters and wars and diseases. So we learn to make new families. We learned that love doesn't have to be limited. Amy Grant's interview was next. Brennick asked her about human psychology, about how humans remain stable in the face of constant danger. We're not always stable, Amy admitted with a sad smile. We struggle. We suffer. We break down sometimes. But we also heal. We support each other. And we find beauty in the world, even when the world is trying to kill us. Beauty in a death world? Especially in a death world. Amy's eyes grew distant. On Earth, we have these events called sunsets. The light hits the atmosphere and everything turns gold and orange and pink. It only lasts a few minutes, but it's one of the most beautiful things you'll ever see. She looked at Brennick. That beauty exists because of all the particles and gases in our atmosphere. The same atmosphere that creates our deadly storms. The danger and the beauty come from the same source. Ben Harper spoke about human history. He told Brennick about wars and famines and plagues that killed millions. But he also told him about the helpers, the people who ran toward disaster instead of away from it. Every time something terrible happened, people stepped up, Ben said. Doctors who treated the sick until they got sick themselves. Soldiers who carried wounded strangers to safety. Ordinary people who shared their food when everyone was starving. He shook his head slowly. The destroyers get remembered in history books. But the helpers were always more numerous. They just worked quietly, without asking for fame or reward. Myra Johal explained human medicine. She described a field that had evolved from desperation, from millions of years of trying to keep loved ones alive against impossible odds. We didn't have advanced technology, she said. So we used what we had. Plants, minerals. Eventually, we learned to use tiny organisms against each other. We turned our bodies into battlefields and figured out how to help the good side win. You speak of disease as if it were a war, Brennick observed. It is a war. It's been a war since the first living thing appeared on Earth. We've been fighting it, so long that we don't even notice anymore. But the fighting taught us something important. Myra leaned forward. It taught us that every life is precious. That we should never stop trying to save someone, even when the odds are against us. Elder Brennick spent 3 days aboard the Horizon. When he was finished with his interviews, he called a meeting with Dr. Zinveth and Commander Thelrix. I believe I understand now, he said. I understand why the humans came to save strangers. Why they risked everything for people they had never met. Why? Commander Thelrix asked. Because their death world did not make them hard, Brennick replied. It made them connected. They survived not by becoming stronger than their planet, but by holding on to each other tighter than their planet could tear them apart. Dr. Zinvith felt something warm bloom in her chest. They became a family. Yes, and more than that. Brennick paused. They see everyone as potential family. Every species. Every stranger. That is why they reach out. That is why they explore. They are constantly searching for more beings to care about. More lives to protect. The door opened and Amy Grant walked in. Behind her, holding her hand tightly, was little Kithra. The child looked at the aliens in the room, then up at Amy. Something passed between them. A silent communication that needed no words. Then, Kithra spoke. Her voice was small and fragile, but clear. "Amy is my family now," she said in careful galactic standard. "She saved me. She keeps me safe. She is what humans call." She paused, searching for the word. "Mother." Amy's eyes filled with tears. She knelt down and wrapped her arms around the small crystalline child, holding her close. "That's right, sweetheart," Amy whispered. "I'm your family now, and I'm never going to let you go." Dr. Zinvith watched them embrace. She watched a human from a Deathworld and an orphan from a mining disaster find each other across the vast emptiness of space, and she understood. Finally, what humans were truly capable of. They were capable of love without limits, of family without boundaries, of reaching out across the darkness and saying, "You are not alone." It was the most powerful thing in the universe. The Galactic Council chambers were the largest enclosed space in the known universe. The domed ceiling stretched so high that clouds formed beneath it. Representatives from 10,000 species sat in tiered rows that circled a central platform, their bodies ranging from microscopic swarms to beings larger than buildings. Elder Brennick stood alone on that platform, his gray scales catching the light of 100 different suns that streamed through crystalline windows. He had spent weeks preparing this report. He had traveled across half the galaxy to deliver it in person. Now, with every eye and sensor in the chamber focused on him, he began to speak. "Distinguished representatives, I come before you today to discuss a species that has lived among us for centuries. A species we have watched with curiosity and concern. A species we have never truly understood." He paused. "I speak, of course, of humanity." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The subject of humans had always been controversial. Some species feared them. Others dismissed them. Very few had bothered to study them closely. When humans first achieved faster-than-light travel and made contact with galactic civilization, they submitted data about their homeworld. This data was largely ignored. Reviewers believed it contained errors or exaggerations. No one could accept that a sentient species had evolved on a Class 12 Deathworld. Brennick's activated a holographic display. Images of Earth appeared above him. Hurricanes spinning across oceans, volcanoes erupting with terrible beauty, predators hunting in endless cycles of death and survival. This is Earth. This is where humans come from. Every piece of data they submitted was accurate. Their world is one of the most dangerous places in the known universe. And yet, they did not just survive there. They thrived. He changed the display to show images from Paraxis 7, the collapsed mine, the toxic gases, the impossible rescue. Recently, I witnessed something that forced me to reconsider everything I believed about humanity. A mining disaster claimed hundreds of lives. Standard protocols declared the situation hopeless. No rescue was possible. And yet, 4 humans walked into that hell and brought out over 100 survivors. The chamber fell silent. Representatives leaned forward in their seats, their attention captured completely. I asked them why they did it, why they risked their lives for strangers of other species, people they had never met and owed nothing to. Their answer was simple. They said, because someone was in trouble and they could help. Brennick let those words hang in the air for a moment. I have spent my entire career studying the psychology of sentient beings. I have learned that most species operate on principles of self-preservation and tribal loyalty. They protect their own kind. They calculate the costs and benefits of every action. This is logical. This is sensible. This is how civilizations survive. He looked out at the assembled representatives. Humans are different. Their Deathworld taught them that survival alone is not enough. They learned that in a universe determined to destroy them, the only path forward was together, not just with their own kind, but with anyone willing to stand beside them. The display changed again, showing Amy Grant holding little Kithra in her arms. This is a human who has adopted a Valorian child orphaned in the disaster. She did not hesitate. She did not question whether this child was worth her care. She simply opened her heart and said, "You are family now." Council member Urith, who had once been skeptical of humans, rose from her seat. Her crystalline body caught the light as she spoke. "I have reviewed Elder Brennix's findings extensively. I have watched the recordings from the horizon. I have spoken with survivors of Paraxis 7. Her voice carried across the vast chamber. "I was wrong about humans. We all were." Another representative stood, a massive being from a species of water dwellers. "But they come from a death world. Does that not make them dangerous?" Brennix smiled, a rare expression for his kind. "They are dangerous, yes, but not in the way we feared. They are dangerous because they will not stop. They will not give up. They will walk through fire and poison and darkness for the chance to save one life. They will tear apart the impossible if it stands between them and someone who needs help." He raised his voice so it echoed through every corner of the chamber. "The galaxy has been measuring humanity by the wrong standards. We looked at their strength, their resilience, their capacity for destruction, and we were afraid. We should have been looking at their hearts. Their death world did not make them monsters. It made them protectors." The holographic display faded, and Brennix stood alone once more. "I recommend that humanity's status be upgraded from monitored newcomers to full galactic partners. They have more than earned it. And I believe that the galaxy will be safer and kinder with them standing beside us." The vote that followed was the largest in Council history. 10,000 species cast their decisions. When the results were announced, it was not even close. Humanity was welcomed into the galactic family by a margin of 94%. Far away. On the galactic research vessel Horizon, the crew received the news. Commander Thelrix read the announcement aloud, and for the first time in his long career, his voice trembled with emotion. Jake Collins and Amy Grant exchanged quiet smiles. Ben Harper nodded once, his eyes bright with something that might have been tears. Mira Johal laughed and hugged everyone within reach. Dr. Zinveth stood apart, watching them celebrate. She felt something new growing inside her, a feeling she had never experienced before meeting these strange, wonderful beings from a world that should have killed them. She felt like she was home. "Commander." Thelrix approached Jake and extended his clawed hand in the human gesture he had learned. "I misjudged your people," he said. "I am sorry." Jake took his hand and shook it firmly. "Don't be sorry. Be curious. That's all we ever ask." The commander nodded slowly. "I would like to offer you a permanent position on this ship. If you are willing, I'd be honored." Dr. Zinveth stepped forward. "I have a request as well. I would like to visit Earth. I want to see the world that created you. I want to understand." Amy smiled warmly. "You're welcome anytime. I'll show you the oceans and the mountains and the forests. I'll show you the sunsets." Her smile widened. "Fair warning, though. It might try to kill you a little bit. I will take that risk." Little Kithra ran across the deck and grabbed Amy's hand. She had been learning English over the past few weeks, and her vocabulary was growing every day. "Where we go next?" she asked in her small, careful voice. Amy knelt down to look her in the eyes. "Wherever we're needed, sweetheart. Wherever someone needs help. And we help them? We always help them." Kithra nodded seriously, then wrapped her thin, crystalline arms around Amy's neck. "Good. That is what family does." Dr. Zinveth watched them, and she thought about everything she had learned. She thought about a species that came from hell and chose to be kind, about people who had every reason to be hard and cold but became gentle instead, about survivors who turned their pain into compassion and their strength into protection. Jake Collins noticed her watching and walked over. "Penny, for your thoughts?" "I was thinking about your planet," Dr. Zinveth said slowly. "About how it tried to destroy you for millions of years. About how you survived." Jake nodded. "It was hard. Harder than most species could imagine. And yet, you are not bitter. You are not cruel. You do not hate the universe for what it did to you." Jake was quiet for a moment, looking out the observation window at the stars. "The universe gave us everything," he finally said. "It gave us life. It gave us each other. Yeah, it tried to kill us too. But it also gave us sunsets and music and love. It gave us the chance to become more than we were." He turned to look at her. How could we hate something that gave us all of that? Dr. Zinveth had no answer. But for the first time in her life, she felt like she was beginning to understand. The horizon turned toward its next destination, carrying its crew of different species, united by something stronger than blood or homeworld. They were family now, all of them. And somewhere in the galactic records, Earth file was quietly updated. The entry now read, Class 12 Deathworld. Origin of humanity. Status revised. Not just dangerous. Home.